You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
One of the issues, and I'm sure, Scott, you want to ask the Congresswoman about, deals with the George Floyd Justice Act, where we the United States Senate. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, Congresswoman, how are you doing? One of the things with the George Floyd Act is whether qualified immunity is going to survive that bill or not. I know the Congressman Clyburn suggested on national news on Sunday that perhaps that might be something that's negotiable, but hitting police where their pockets are when they make mistakes or they purposely kill young black men and women with their uniforms on is critical to police reform and cleaning up these police departments around the country. Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely, Scott, and thank you. You would not imagine that I've been engaged in the qualified immunity now since Brother Clyburn made that statement, and just got off.
Yes, ma'am.
Just got off the phone with one of the families, young man out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Brother Crutcher, who was shot with his hands up. His family member was on the line. As you may have known, I met with the family members and made that tour with them in the United States Senate. My meeting was to be with Majority Leader Schumer. And I must say that our meeting probably was one of the strongest, because when we left out of there, the Majority Leader indicated that his preference was to do nothing that the families did not want him to do, and to put the strongest bill on the floor. And we discussed qualified immunity, and frankly, he was very knowledgeable about it. So here's where we are. We appreciate our Majority Whip, and we know that he wants to give the widest landscape to be able to deal with this question. The people that are engaged from different perspectives are wedded to qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is on the table to be kept, not on the table to be your meal. So we are still fighting for qualified immunity. 30 years, activists have been fighting for that, along with 242. So what I would say to you is, no, it is not at this point an option for qualified immunity not to be part of this bill. This has to be a moment in history where the strongest bill has to be passed, and I'm committed to continue that. Right now, we're looking at language that says the same thing in terms of qualified immunity, but may be able to answer those who really don't fully understand it. Here's my simple interpretation as I close. Qualified immunity is a judge-made concept. It's not a statute. And all that we want to do in the modification of it, meaning changing it, is to let the victim get in the courtroom the same way the officer gets in the courtroom. And what has happened before is that the victim had a stop sign at the front door of the courtroom, and because of qualified immunity, they were immediately dismissed, i.e. the Robbie Tolan case right there, immediately dismissed. And that is an abomination. And all the good policing out there, all the good police officers, and they exist, understand the pain of families, and I believe they want justice as well.
Lee, your question for Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Thank you, Congresswoman. First of all, you are my dad and my mother's Congresswoman. They live in Houston, and they'll be happy to know that I'm talking to you virtually as well. Look, with the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, I know there's components in there that are mandating police body cameras, of course, for federal law enforcement, and there's requirements in there for state and local law enforcement agencies to utilize existing federal funding for that. But, I used to be a local elected official in Georgia in DeKalb County. I was a county commissioner and chief executive officer. And one of the things that we always paid attention to, if there were penalties in place for that didn't allow us to gain federal funding. in place. And so I was wondering if there were any thoughts about putting penalties in place for those local and state law enforcement agencies that don't take advantage of police body cameras across the entire force. Any thoughts on that?
That's a good question. I think the power of the purse is what you're talking about, and the idea
Absolutely.
that they would not be eligible for federal funds or burn grant dollars. And I think that has life to it. I think also there should be language now that we're seeing what's happening with Mr. Brown's case, that there should be a period of time where you are not allowed to delay the showing of the body cam to family and or community as requested. So why don't I call that next steps? I think that is something that I've certainly thought about to make sure that all of this is enforced. Inside the bill, there are incentives with respect to funding for community groups, and people have misinterpreted funding in there that it's for policing. It's for training and for things like what you have said, that there be no one that has an excuse that they can't get body cams. And I think the very next nexus to it is what you said, is that if you get the body cams, then we should be able to enforce your wearing and having the body cams on. Because the last thing you want to hear as a family of a loved one is that so-and-so, XYZ, did not have his or her body cam on. And we know that there are cases like that.
Absolutely.
All right.
So
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, it's always a pleasure. We certainly appreciate the hard work, and we're going to keep pushing to see the George Floyd Justice Act become a reality in the United States Senate.
Thank you, and push for H.R. 4 and H.R. 1. Those are the voting bills.
Yep.
We've got to win. Thank you.
Oh, hold up. I do have to ask you this here. H.R. 40, is that actually going to be scheduled for a vote on the floor of the House?
Oh, I'm so glad I'm so busy doing all this other thing that I didn't mention my heart. I was on the floor again today getting co-sponsors. We are aiming toward the Juneteenth date. As you well know, historically, this bill passed out of the judiciary. Never has that happened before in the history of Congress. H.R. 40 now a commission that will, in essence, study slavery, but present and develop reparation proposals. So, yes, we are aiming toward, we have been given a projected schedule before June 19th. So any of you who are listening, who have members of Congress that may not be on this bill, and just about everybody is, but there's some that have not made it yet, you need to encourage them to co-sponsor H.R. 40, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals. And please let everybody know, this is legislation. This is a bill. This is an action item. This is doing and telling others to do as well.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.